Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another podcast episode. On today's show, I'm excited to have Josselyn Boudett. She is the founder of Stella Automotive. We're going to be talking about the power of digital voice assistants, AI-driven telephony.
You got this. You got this.
Okay. I'm going to say it again.
Tongue
Here we
twister.
go, Connor. Here we go, Connor. Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to another podcast episode. On today's show, I'm excited to have Josselyn Boudett. She is the founder of Stella Automotive. We're going to be talking about the power of digital voice assistants and AI-driven telephony to bring dealers to another whole level of profitability, increasing customer satisfaction, freeing up employees to do other very profitable tasks that often gets pushed aside and, well, just disrupting everything we know about call routing. Josselyn, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian. Great to be here.
You know, I first came to know about Stella at NADA, huge buzz. Everyone was circling around your booth. And then, of course, you came out to DMSC in Napa Valley in the spring. We got to really interact, get to know more about this amazing product. And there's still so many dealers that need to know how Stella fills a gap that maybe they weren't even aware of. So, Josselyn, when you meet a dealer for the first time, or they call you and say, I heard I have to have Stella, what's your elevator pitch? What do you tell dealers Stella can do for them?
Well, that's a great intro. Thank you. I think, fundamentally, Stella answers the telephone. Stella is for dealers with telephones. And what she does is she books appointments and she peels off all that work off of the auto group. Stella's basically as if you hired an employee that is the world's most professional employee at booking appointments. She properly represents your brand. She gathers all the data on new customers. She recognizes and acknowledges existing customers. And she gets the job done, including everything from what's wrong with your car, selecting the op code, and scheduling the transportation option of drop off or a rental or a loan or shuttle or what have you. She also scores the call and asks the customer if they were well serviced. She has texting capability where she can follow up after calls. She can confirm. She does rescheduling. She does confirmations. She also answers FAQs. Are you open right now? When do you close? Is Brian working today? Things like that. And other questions, that expand month to month.
And what dealers need to understand is that Stella Automotive is not a brand new company. This is a proven proprietary platform. Telepathy Labs was built to serve just not automotive, but Fortune 100 companies, Fortune 1000 companies. And the focus on automotive has been somewhat, I would say, could be one of the fastest growing companies in automotive tech. Josselyn, how have you kept up with the demand?
Yeah, it's been awesome. As you know, we launched at NADA. We had an incredible launch with really good response and met a lot of dealers. And then word of mouth has gone from there. We expanded our team. We've brought in professional automotive people from top software companies in the industry. And we are armed for bear and scaling. We've got a wide spread of dealer groups, individual dealers, groups of 10, and several of the national groups onboarding and happy. And so we're just thrilled. We couldn't be more excited about the launch, the market reception. Of course, it's difficult to walk in anywhere, Brian, and just say, hey, we're Stella, when nobody'd heard of us. where and so it's just been such a welcoming event. The thing I've noticed about automotive is that, number one, when something works, dealers adopt it. They need help. They're looking for things that are turnkey, and we have one. And the other is that dealers trust dealers, and we've had incredible word of mouth, really spurring our growth.
Well, as I got to know about the product and my customers were asking what I thought, one of the, early questions I had for your team is, who are you integrated with? Obviously, some of the biggest service schedulers would be like Xtime, Affinitive, maybe Dealer Socket, and then you have DMS players. And I know you're integrated with CDK, and just recently finished a implementation testing with Techion. How's all that going?
Yeah, it's been awesome. We have, I think the integration, expanding APIs is definitely a top initiative, focusing on the scheduler. And I think that the predominant profile of most customers we're meeting now. So we definitely scaled up and got a lot of that work done to be integrated where dealers want us. And that list extends, but I mean, we have the muscle in. We've got the bulk of, pretty much we're responding to customer demand. There was a very large demand for CDK. We responded, and then we have dealers coming in, and as they request, we add the API.
For dealers who are listening to today's podcast and obviously hear your story of how explosive the growth has been, dealers that I've spoke to are just amazed that Stella's booking hundreds of appointments per month that are showing up as if they were booked by a human, meaning the quality is there. But there's still some dealers listening to today's podcast say there's just no way that Stella can do as good of a job as my team can do. For the doubters out there, Josselyn, and of course we know this is your business, you're passionate about it, other than, hey, you're wrong, what would you say to those doubters? I mean, other than try it, but even try it in their mind could be, wow, I could lose a lot of money.
Yeah, that really is the opposite effect that Stella has had. We have empirical data now from a wide variety of dealer brands and sizes and shapes and markets, where Stella maintains at the very minimum at least the same number of appointments. But we have some dealers that have tripled their appointment volume with Stella. Why is that? Because Stella works 24/7. Stella has no hold time. So where people were holding 3-4 minutes just to speak to somebody, Stella completely books somebody in about a minute and a half. It has zero latency. But I would say the main narrative here, Brian, is intelligence. When all of us have the experience of the miserable IVRs and phone systems that we call for banking, for travel, and I think most people, I would actually agree with them that robots suck. And this is not a robot. It's an intelligent system. It's a smart system. It's an incredibly smart AI coming out of top laboratory technology. When you talk to Stella, she adapts depending on if you're a new or existing customer, and then she cuts short the shortest route through the call. So if she already knows who you are, she doesn't bother you. If she needs to know more, she'll ask you more. So it's a responsive system. It's a smart system. It's customizable by brand and by dealer. And what we're finding is it yields more appointments.
And one of the other thoughts I had, and maybe we need to rewrite the book on BDC structure and compensation, but it would seem to me if Stella can handle inbound service appointment calls seamlessly, and I knew that maybe my customers were not being called as often as they should for declined service or recalls or other outbound campaigns, I would be incentivizing my service BDC on outbound calls, not these inbound calls that are, well, generated by someone else. Give them to Stella. I know that may sound crazy for some people, but it would seem if Stella does a great job, equal to or better than any human, and the majority of those inbound service calls are for changing or creating an appointment, wouldn't it make sense then to change pay plans, encourage people to make those outbound calls so that they're not threatened by Stella, who's doing a great job taking these lay down appointments?
Absolutely. I think that would be a best practice. And, you'd be surprised, but, having worked with a sizable number of dealers now, that is not the norm. We find a lot of dealers compensating on inbound and really sort of agnostic if it was outbound or inbound. They're just compensating on the appointment. Whereas I think when Stella is deployed, they can focus their team on a value added proposition of pulling in business that they wouldn't have otherwise gotten. And then Stella, as a full-time staff member, can handle all inbound. So we find that is a best practice where the staff are compensated. But I think even more so, staff truly have an overwhelming amount of work to do today. I think they're burdened by the inbound, even if they were commissioned, because there's just so many issues with inventory, for example, of tires, or inventory for recall repairs, where they need attention. They need staff members looking at appointments, making sure things are in stock, programming who's coming in, and making sure the dealership is ready. I think much better use of their time.
And let's talk about a few tricky things when we talk about service appointment scheduling. Again, there are doubters out there, and again, we have to make the case for them to at least investigate what Stella can do for them. So what does Stella do to make sure that the service bookings follow the shop rules or shop capacity? I think I don't want dealers to think that, hey, I can book anything on any open slot. How does Stella, abide by the business rules and capacity balancing that a dealer might set or have in place when humans are answering?
Yeah, I think there's almost infinite, Stella could grow infinitely and does. And one indication of an AI company is that the product changes. And you'll see that the product has dramatically different characteristics than it did when we launched in March. So, I mean, it's a great question. We love that topic. Some of the things that we've done just from working with dealers is, number one, if somebody wants a recall, is just not booking the appointment, we can allow the dealer to choose, do they want us to route all recalls to their BDC? Stella is intelligent and is happy to do that. We can also book appointments like that 3 weeks out so that they have time to get a part in. So that, I think allowing rules at a rooftop level is something that we've released. Other features like that would be some dealers actually don't book appointments for oil changes. They let people just stop by. So Stella has dialogues around those that are customizable. And then also by repair. So for certain repairs, they can request that it go to BDC. So just allowing, and I think the dealer has preferences of how and when they do want to be on the phone, and then letting Stella handle things that aren't complex, which is what it's really, really good at. The customer experience scores we're getting are well over 80%. We have incredible quotes from customers that we do provide to our dealers so they can see what their customers are saying. We had one dealer go through and anybody that zeroed out, they asked him why. Oftentimes that might be that, the first available appointment is a month out. And, the way the market is right now, that's not uncommon. So somebody might zero out because they don't like the schedule that Stella's seeing, and they want to cram themselves in. And we see that as just a very friendly environment. I mean, we're not trying to stop people from talking to humans, but where we are able to help them, we help them much faster, much more efficiently, and get really good scores. So we're just trying to take the calls that are a layup and then be respectful of the dealer's preferences around, obviously, their customers, the most important thing. And calls are just a vital line, as you've mentioned, to customers.
I'm thinking of a few questions that dealers have asked me about digital voice assistants. And one of them is, can Stella understand another language? So, for example, in the Northeast, where I have some clients in New York, they have a high percentage of Spanish customers. And so how does Stella handle someone who may want to, speak in Spanish or are more comfortable in speaking Spanish?
Well, today she speaks Spanish in that you can say habla español, or if you ask a question in Spanish, she generally recognizes it. And we do transfer, we get the names of and extension and the, dialing numbers of Spanish speaking staff, and quickly route calls that way. We can and will deliver in Spanish. Surprisingly, we've had, we are in Florida, we are in California, and in, areas like New York, suburbs where there's a lot of foreign accents. We found, we were initially told this is a huge need. We need Spanish right away. And of course, we will respond. But when we got in, it was like 3% of their phone calls. We actually haven't been in a dealer where there were that many. I think it's just the problem seems huge because when it happens, it's cataclysmic. But so far, it hasn't truthfully been as much of a demand as the dealers initially portrayed, but we can and will deliver it. Now, in other markets and in heavy equipment where we're a very big provider, we do deliver in multiple languages around the world.
Great. Now, dealers who are hearing this conversation, I know some of them, when they say, wow, if Stella's that efficient, if Stella is excellent at understanding natural language, not an IVR route, not press 1, press 2, just have a conversation. Why can't we just have Stella be the first line of defense for all calls? Meaning, I call the dealership's main number, and then instead of press 1 for sales, 2 for service, 3 for parts, the opens up and says, hi, I'm Stella. You can ask me any question. How can I help you? Where are we on, in a sense, maybe putting the IVR in the grave?
Well, I think that is nigh. I think we are very close to receptionist capabilities. We do have them in beta. We have several dealers using Stella as a receptionist, just as a trial. But of course, the product today is it's a service receptionist. So when Stella answers the phone, she says, how can I help you? She has several capabilities around, she can watch lines. You can you can schedule, does she wait 3 rings or 5 rings? Maybe you want to give your staff a chance to pick up if they're free, things like that. And then voicemail. Stella takes voicemail, transcribes them, and emails staff members their voicemail. She does that on the service desk only. I could see that applying to other areas of the company. The trials we have are pretty interesting, I would say. There's just a wide variety of use cases when we scan the industry. Many larger dealer groups have centralized BDCs. And how a receptionist interacts with the BDC, I think we're still gathering use cases and how the behavior could or should work. But for a singleton dealer, I think it's it's an imminent proposition that Stella would be able to do that.
You mentioned something that our listeners probably wouldn't know, but I know. You have extensive experience in the heavy machinery world. Stella knows millions and millions of part numbers and descriptions. Is there a path forward for Stella to help dealers when consumers want to order accessories or parts, and they could have a natural language discussion with consumers on those items? Is that a potential roadmap?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we entered auto, I had in mind a product like that, but when we surveyed the market, what was wanted was help on phones. So this is where we ended up starting, although we do have a lot of assets, I think probably at an OEM level, because parts are so different between brands. It would need to be approached from that perspective. Stella is incredibly sophisticated and really helping consumers configure field upgrades, install hydraulics, put in, do sophisticated brake system replacements in field. She orders parts, she checks inventory. I mean, we're doing some really sophisticated things in other markets that we're really proud of, and that I think are pretty cutting edge. We also work in financial services, and Stella does have topics for owners of businesses as well, in the hotel and hospitality space and in commercial real estate. So yeah, we have assets around. I think we can bring into auto. But right now, we are hearing loud and clear the demand is for phones. Dealers are really challenged with the hiring and human resource issues of trying to get good service scores and take care of their customers. Pressure is on from the brands for them to deliver. In some cases, it correlates to even how many cars they can have, is how well they're doing on the phone. So we are focused right there this year. I think moving into receptionist is a hot topic for us. And then expanding topics such as booking test drives, watching the lines, taking voicemails, doing a better job, helping the staff and helping the dealer look good and take care of their customers. That's our main focus.
Well, Stella is perfectly aligned with the trends that I see. Dealers looking to increase operational efficiency at scale. They're looking to reduce the mundane tasks to their staff so they have better retention. There's countless millions of dollars are spent each year on phone skills training. And if I was in the BDC, I think I'd want to be talking to people about more of the complex issues where I can add value, not, can I schedule my oil change? That would be kryptonite after, 3, 4, 5 months of that. I want to really feel like I'm adding value. I understand the dealer's culture. I'm building on the brand value. And so I think that Stella's perfectly aligned with that. And we know how many calls are mishandled. The stats are staggering from our friends in the call tracking industry that serve automotive. So anything we can do to improve that, well, the number one channel by which consumers reach out to dealers is the phone. And we are absolutely spinning our wheels year after year and not getting better. I think we're making some breakthroughs here with products like Stella. And dealers who are listening to today's podcast should know that the Stella team will be at the Modern Retailing Conference. Josselyn will also be a panel speaker. The Modern Retailing Conference this year has 5 educational tracks. Really excited about having something for everyone in the dealership. We have a marketing track. We have a track for the new Google Analytics version 4. We have a sales process track, which includes both variable ops and fixed ops. We have a creative track, which is so exciting this year. Paul Daly from Automotive State of the Union team is going to be bringing in his creative teams and associates to help dealers build more compelling brand messages and communication. And lastly, we have an HR track. And this is the first time we're doing that, but one of the things we're finding is, how do we build an internal marketing team? How do we attract, train, and retain employees today in today's constrained labor market? So the Modern Retailing Conference is in Palm Beach. I want to encourage you to book your hotel rooms on the room block before it expires and get your tickets, because the event will sell out. And then if this is the first time you're hearing this podcast, you should know that I interview industry leaders, disruptors, and people who are reimagining automotive retail on my podcast channel. You can just search for the Brian Pash Podcast on Apple, SoundCloud, Google Play, or you can go to brianpash.libsyn, that's LIBSYN.com, to listen to all the episodes. Josselyn, I'm going to give you the last word. For the dealers who want to put you to the test, they want to hear Stella handle calls, they want to set up a framework to put Stella to work, what's the best way for them to set up a demo?
Well, we have stellaautomotive.com. We have we have samples in there that they can look at. We have an awesome sales team they can book directly appointments with. And then I would just encourage dealers that for your customers, intelligence is always welcome. You have intelligence as your front end of your dealer. It's a brand builder. It's a net positive effect to have a smart system handle your customers and take care of them fast. We're finding across the board that scores are up with Stella.
Well, if that isn't a compelling reason, I wouldn't know what else I could add. Thank you so much, Josselyn. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. And I'll see you next time on another podcast episode.